Hello and welcome to my new edition of True Audio Files. I'm going to today talk about some tips that I can give you to get the most out of your music listening experience. So before I get started into the tips, I kind of want to just give you my take on how you should approach these tips and some things about the tips. I think the biggest thing to take away from it is these are obviously just opinion in some cases. Some of the opinions are based on some factual information about audio, but in general, these are just obviously my opinion on how to maximize your listening experience, if you will. And I would love to, I thought about this for a while, and I'm sure I'm missing some things. So if I am missing something that you think is really important, I would love to see you add that into the comment section below, or if you see this on social media at all for like Facebook or, Instagram or any of those types of things. I would love you to share your insights into this as well and maybe add your color to it and what you feel helps you get the most out of your music listening experience. But in my opinion, these are probably some of the most important tips I can give from my experiences, both in listening to music and selling the gear that I did for a couple of decades and seeing what got people interested in it and got people excited about the listening experience as well. So also on this episode, I just want to kind of say that I'm going to try to go through these things somewhat fast. And, if you want more detail about any of these points, let me know in the comment section. And if I get enough people wanting that, then maybe I'll make a separate episode on that specific point. So that being said, let me start off with the one that I think is probably one of the more important ones. These aren't necessarily in any kind of order either. These are just the order I'm going in is basically the order in which I kind of thought of them. So there's no particular order on these. But this one, in my opinion, is definitely one of the more important ones, and that is the setup of your system. And what I mean by that is not necessarily the expense of your system, but how you've got it set up. Is it set up in your room appropriately where you can have a good sweet spot where you get that deeper sound stage and the wider sound stage, and you just get the a heightened listening experience. Things like sound diffusers in your room that you put up on the walls to kind of help with the sound quality of the room, because the sound of your room and the speaker placement are going to actually be some of the biggest steps in getting the best sound quality that you can get. You could have a super high-end system, but not set up properly and not in a good room, and it's not going to sound as good as a cheaper system. So setting up your system and setting up your room is going to really make a big difference. Number 2 is getting the equipment that sounds best to you. And when I say that, I'm saying this in the sense that you can get all the opinions you want and look at all the specs you want, but that really won't do anything for you unless you like the sound of it. Only you know what you like the sound of best, and getting something that sounds the most neutral or even isn't necessarily going to be the sound that you like best. So going with something that you can listen to and you feel sounds the way you want it to sound is absolutely key. Not what anyone else thinks, because they're not going to be listening to it. You are. So number 3 is going to be for those record lovers out there, which I know there are a lot of them that are watching this video now because that's a primary focus on my channel. So this is something that if things like ticks and pops and things like that take away from your musical listening experience, which in my opinion they do for me, make sure you clean your records. Every record. And I've gone into this on a couple of different episodes of mine, and maybe I'll post links to them in the description below, or maybe have some tiles that you can access. But cleaning your records to make sure that they sound their best is going to be so key to that. And it also prolongs the life of your stylus too, so you won't have to keep replacing styluses as often. So it's kind of a win-win situation. So number 4 would be finding the best sounding version of the music you listen to. It's usually not the streaming version, because the mastering on the streaming version is the most current one. And in my personal experience, and it's not always the case, but in my experience, usually the most recent mastering tends not to be the best sounding version of that album. So, maybe it's an older CD, maybe it's maybe an older, sounds funny to say that, but older high-res version of the album, or the obvious factor that most of you people that watch this this channel would say is, maybe the original or early pressing of the record, or maybe even an audiophile reissue of it. Although, don't always assume that audiophile remasterings or recordings are going to be the absolute best sounding version. My experience has been that in a lot of cases they are, but in a lot of cases they aren't. And more importantly, if they're very expensive compared to, let's say, an early pressing of the album, the early pressing of the album, in my experience, has been very close to the audiophile level recording. So, if you can find an early or first pressing that's cheaper than the audiophile one, you'd probably be fine with that. So, this one is kind of an important one to me, because I kind of learned this one the hard way when searching for headphone amplifiers, headphones, things like that. And that is, if you want opinions, get them from people you tend to agree with most often. And what I mean by that is, let's say you watch a lot of videos like mine or other people's videos that do reviews of sound quality between different versions of pressings. If you're going to take advice from someone, take advice from the ones that you tend to agree with on those reviews. Because generally speaking, you're probably going to have the same taste in sound quality or taste in sound as that person. So you're probably going to tend to have a more reliable outcome in terms of you feeling the same way about whatever it is they're making recommendations on. So that's part of the reason why I don't necessarily harp too much on my opinions on the sound quality shootouts that I do, because different people have different tastes in sound. And whenever you watch any of my sound quality shootouts, or most of them, you'll see that I tend to say, this is what I would recommend if you like it this way, and things like that. So that's, in my opinion, a really important factor. If you like getting people's input and people's opinions, make sure the opinions that you follow are of people that you tend to agree with on their assessments. So this one, in my opinion, is kind of well, all of these are important, but this one's a pretty important one. And I don't think most people tend to do this as often as they used to. And that might be part of the reason why, number one, there was such a dip in music sales, physical album sales, over, the past few years, and why during COVID, those numbers started to shoot back up again. And that is, try and find time to be alone with your music with no distractions, and sit in the sweet spot. That is something that I think is a lost art for a lot of people out there. They tend to just kind of listen to them through their laptop speakers or their Bluetooth speaker or some cheap pair of earbuds or something like that. And, you get to enjoy the music, but it's not, the music experience just isn't the same. And I think it makes for less engagement in the music and less enjoyment out of the music, in my opinion. And clubs are a prime example of that. You listen to dance music, part of that experience is feeling that bass pumping and feeling that vibration, and just the loudness of the music and things like that. So it plays a big role in your musical experience enjoyment. So now I want to kind of talk about what I think isn't needed. Some of this stuff's going to be a little controversial. I know that a couple of people that tend to watch some of my videos may may have a hard time with these, and I don't know if hard time is the right word, but these are not necessarily, some of these are not necessarily intended to be about specific people, and I want to stress that right now, and because I know it's going to come up, or I shouldn't say I know, but I think it's going to come up. But the first one isn't, and that is, you don't need an expensive system to have a great musical listening experience. So I think you just need the other things that I talked about in the beginning, which is, setting up your system properly and getting that equipment that sounds good to you. So expensive systems aren't necessary. Now, I want to stress, in my experience, getting the most out of your musical listening experience, I should say it definitely will enhance the listening experience with better equipment. I just don't think it's necessary to get the most out of it. So it can definitely help, but I don't think you have to. I guess is my main point to that. It's kind of a dicey situation because yes, it is, I guess, the best way to get the most out of it, but I don't think it's necessary. I kind of touched on this a little bit before, but I don't think it's absolutely needed to get audiophile level recordings or masterings. It helps. But also in general, like maybe most of the music you listen to was not done, at an audiophile level where the recording was really good and the mastering is really good and things on that nature. So in my opinion, I don't think you need to get yourself hung up on that, because the musical listening experience is more than just the sound quality. It's about, how you like the music that you're listening to too, correct? So now for the controversial one that I have always been tempted to make a separate topic on and a separate video on. And if you want me to go deeper into this, I'll be more than happy to. Just make some comments in the comment section, and I will, if I get enough of them, I will do that. But social media opinions on what sounds best, I don't think are absolutely necessary. I just think social media in general, and it's kind of a weird thing because I'm on social media now doing this, is a slippery slope. There are a lot of people out there that either consider themselves experts or other people consider them experts, and I just don't think, I have found in my experience that there are a lot of people out there that are at that point, and I don't think that they're really experts. I think they may know a good amount about it as a fan of music and things on that nature, but the only real experts, in my opinion, are the ones that are kind of in the industry in some way, shape, or form, and not just people who like listening to music and like buying music and things on that nature. And I put myself into that category too. I feel that I have a great knowledge of this stuff, and I love to try to share that knowledge. And I try to stay as factual as I can. I'm not perfect. No one is. And I want to stress that. But, I like to try to make sure that what information's out there is as accurate as it can be. And, we all make mistakes when we make posts on social media where we want to try to keep it short, but in doing so, you may not be as informative or as correct or as succinct as you need to be, and get all that information that you need to be accurate on it. So I've definitely fallen into that category a couple of times. But anyways, I don't want to go too deep into that because I can get myself in trouble for number one. But number two, I want to keep this video somewhat short because it's already getting long. So again, any of these topics, if you want me to go do a deeper dive on any of them, please let me know in the comment section. If I get enough people wanting that, I'll make longer videos on those specific topics. But that's basically my video for this week. I want to hear your comments below. Again, let me know if I've left anything out that you think is important. And I would love to hear it because I'm always looking for some great advice and some great insight that I may leave out because I'm not perfect. So leave those comments below if you like. If you liked what you saw here, please hit that like button. And if you liked, again, liked what you see in general, and you want to see more of my videos, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to know when my new videos come out, hit that alert bell. So also, catch me on social media. I do have my own social media stuff, and I'm trying to get better at posting more, but I do have a Facebook group that's a public group that's True Audiophiles, spelled just like this site for YouTube, True Audiophiles with an F. So I have a link to it down below in my description. I would love to see more and more people there. I'd love to see people post things on that and get your involvement in that as well, so I'm not the only person posting on that. So that is everything I've got. Thank you very much. You have yourself a great week.